Good afternoon, good night, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you for joining us once again. Running a little late, a few technical difficulties when I got these headphones on, but we're here. Another episode of the BMR NBA show. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and to visit bmr.com for all the great articles. I'm joined by my homie, Jordan Sharp. Jordan, how was your night last night?
I can't complain. Went 1-1 for the official show picks. Cashed the under for everybody in Phoenix and Sacramento. Made me sweat a little bit. Sacramento made Phoenix better sweat a little bit too there at the end. And they ended up cashing the under for me, so that felt good. But what did we say, man? Atlanta, you had to play some defense if you wanted to cover that game, my guys. And you gave up, over 100 points through three quarters. Not going to cut it in the NBA. You're going to lose 9 times out of 10 if you give up 100 points through three quarters. It's just the way it is. And I will not be betting any unders with the Atlanta Hawks anymore for the foreseeable future. I have learned my lesson. But last night, real story, a lot of stories last night in that game. Steph Curry going for 50 kind of screwed me, too. I don't want to put it completely on the Atlanta defense, but it was mostly their fault. But I couldn't find odds for it last night, but I believe I recommended LaMelo Ball to score a triple-double, and that's exactly what he did, and he cashed his prop easily. So a win there on the unofficial side of things, but 1-1 for the official show picks. I know you had a pretty good day, but I also want to talk about what happened in that Miami at Denver game. So go for it, my guy. Let's kick it off. How'd you do yesterday? It's
funny that you say that. So I got into a full-blown argument with a couple of my friends in the group chat. Like, yo, Jokic is lucky. Dog, memo, and I tweeted this 2 weeks ago when Pat Bev tried it.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
These guys from Eastern Europe, these guys that have seen tanks rolling down their street, these guys that are from these countries where you say the wrong thing and you're like my homeboy used to tell me, who's from Eastern Europe. When they want to get you, they're not going to come shoot you in the building you're in. They're going to blow up the entire building, and if you're in there and they got you, that's good. So these guys are from an environment like, they're from the hood too, bro. Like, these guys in the NBA just feel like, oh, these guys, I can. Like, Jimmy Butler's like, yo, bring that shit in the back. Let me tell you something right now, bro. Just forget about being from the hood or not. Does Jokic look like he's scared of people? Does Jokic look like he has a problem breaking people with his bare hands? I'm never going to bring his brothers into it. Sorry, my phone, the house phone's ringing. I'm never going to bring his brothers into it. Stop it already with the pretend fighting. And that brings me to another point. NBA players don't fight, bro. NBA players push, they shove, and then they're like, hold me back.
Yeah.
Hold me back. That's what they do. They do it like in the schoolyard. Any number of Heat players could have gotten that Jokic when he was standing there at center court. He didn't look like he was worried even a little bit. I'll get off that. If you have anything to say about that, I'll let you go. But speaking of LaMelo Ball, did you see Tyrion Lannister yelling at LaMelo Ball?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Tyrion Lannister, but I just don't want to insult any group of people. So I'm just going to say Tyrion Lannister somehow showed up at the game and was like yelling at LaMelo Ball. Yeah, all those games are weird. Look, just to stick to business as usual, I had the over in that game. The Heat didn't even score 100 points and it still went over. It's really, really rare that two contending teams are going to score less than 210 points in an NBA game. I'm sorry. What was the other play that I had? I had Golden State -3.
Golden State, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I said, if y'all don't think that Steph Curry's going to be up to cook Trae Young, if there was any time that Steph would be motivated is when another guy's compared to him. And the only guy that's really compared to him is this guy. And he kind of showed you, like, don't compare this dude to me, bro. Me and him were not on the same playing field. And the other game that I had was a loss. It was a win. Was it a win? I can't remember. New York, Philly.
You had under, yeah, and people got the better into that line, it still cashed, yeah. So that was a good one. We were both, I think, recommending the under. Be very confused at that one, why that was going up, even with the Embiid news. That was pretty crazy.
And again, guys, you gotta always have to put your bets into context. You don't just look at the teams. You don't just look at the stats. You got to look at the roster and its individual parts. Both of these teams do not have a pass-first pure point guard. So who is the person that's going to speed up the pace then? Like, you need a catalyst to play faster. Ben Simmons was Philly's catalyst. Ben Simmons plays at 100 miles an hour. He doesn't score a lot, but he looks to get the ball from one of the end of the court to the other end of the court in as few dribbles as possible. So without guys to really push the pace, I don't see why that number went up. That was an easy one, I think, for me. But that's enough about yesterday. Unless you got anything you want to add, Jordan, you want to bring it to today?
Let me real quick just break us down with Miami, the Jokic Markieff Morris situation for 60 seconds, and then we can move on.
Hold on. The Morris brothers are the fakest tough guys in the NBA. Go.
Pretty close, yeah. Okay, so one, you're exactly right. Like, pro wrestlers fight more real than NBA players. Like, I'm if you think that's wrong, then you're just watching different things than I do, because pro wrestlers actually hit each other sometimes, and these NBA players almost never hit each. At least I should say, let me back up. The new age NBA players don't hit any. Let's leave the 90s out of this. I don't want to drag them into the Madonna age. Right?
You could have caught a
yeah. You could have caught some hands. Right? It's not happening. These guys make way too much money, and they're not trying to get 7-figure suspensions, which are coming for Jokic, like with the way he makes money. Morris is on a vet minimum. He's not losing too much money for what he did, but it brings me to a point that I have to reiterate from you, bro. I know the Morris twins are from Philadelphia. I know Philadelphia is one of the hardest cities in this entire country. I'll give Philly its entirety of its props. Don't fuck with dude from the Balkan states, please. Stop it. Don't mess with them. Bosnia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Serbia, Kosovo, all these countries. Stop. You're not harder than them. Stop. These guys were born during a war, during a civil freaking war.
And not a pretty war either. Not our idea of war.
Their parents were killing each other, dude. Like, yeah, stop. Yeah. I understand you're from Philadelphia. Just stop, okay? And Jimmy Butler, exactly right. Jimmy, you overplayed your hand a little bit, guy. I'll defend Jimmy Butler to the death. Yeah. Don't overplay your hand, my guy. And also, one last thing. Both those guys deserve a suspension before we move on to today. But I will defend Markieff Morris in this regard. Morris is out there to do three things, I guess, right? Play defense, take up a lot of fouls, so Bam Adebayo and Jimmy and all those and Lowry and those guys don't have to rack up a lot of fouls, and be the hatchet man. And if you don't know what a fucking hatchet man is in basketball, just look at how Markieff Morris plays basketball now into his 30s. The dude is out there to piss off whoever he's guarding and hope that something like last night happens. And then, like professional wrestling, he sells the crap out of it, which he did very well.
Right, he was like rolling.
Yeah, like dude was holding his head. I understand it probably hurt, but what he did was chippy. What he did was like, you and I have probably done this on a basketball court. Anybody who's played from middle school on at a competitive level in any size, any school, whatever, has had a guy on their team that's job was to be chippy, to piss off the other guy enough to where he does something stupid and gets thrown out of the game, right? That's like a legitimate job on a basketball court for a guy, especially a bench player, right? You don't see it too much in starting lineups these days, but bench guys especially. What Jokic did was dirty, dude. Play was dead. Absolutely, with Morris's back turned, completely rocked the guy. I understand why that makes you want to fight, guys. But like seriously, even a cheap shot from a guy from a Balkan state, I'm gonna take that on the lip. I'm gonna go ahead and just walk away because I don't want none of that smoke. And I would advise the Morris twins and Jimmy Butler to follow suit. We got too much to talk. We could talk all day about yesterday. Let's move on to today, my guys. First game here. You ready?
I'm ready. I just wanted to say one last thing. The only person that acted real in that situation was Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero looked at Jokic and pointed at the ref. He was like, "Hey, yo, ref, come get this guy because I'm not. I'm
too small. I don't want that. Yeah, I don't want it at all. All right. Anyways, who in their right mind is betting on Philadelphia tonight, my guy? That's the question I want to know. This is the main question I have for this first game here because I feel like I'm having a little bit of deja vu with this Bucks team, right? Because aren't they just being undervalued yet again here in the spot? Like the Philadelphia is without everybody now. Like they have a completely depleted roster. I understand Milwaukee has their issues right now, but they have the two best players on the court tonight easily, and I feel like we're getting a little bit of a bargain here on this spread. That being said, I'm on the under here for basically the exact same reasons because I think Milwaukee, as undervalued as they are here, I think they don't even need to score a bunch to win this game. I think they could play just average to slightly above average defense and hold this Philly team to under 105 points. Assuming everybody was healthy, right? Assuming we had Middleton, assuming the Sixers had like everybody essentially. I think Matisse Thybulle is potentially could come back tonight. I don't know if that's the case or not. Still kind of waiting on news for him. I think today is the first day he's eligible if he registers 2 negative tests. If he comes back though, that just helps because I'll love the under if he comes back because he's out there to just defend Giannis and Drew and those guys. So I think fully healthy, this total is probably only a couple points off from where it should be with all these guys healthy. probably in the 220s, low 220s. I think 218 is a huge value. This total should probably be 213, 214, something like that is where I've handicapped it. If you're going to give me 3 or 4 points with this little offense with Sixers coming off the back-to-back, missing all their best players, hand me the under. I'll take it 9 times out of 10, my guy.
Agree with everything you said. I originally had this as one of my picks for the show, but I try to stick to the rule on the show. If I don't actually have money in it, which I haven't made a bet yet, I'm not going to tell you guys to put money on it. So it's an unofficial pick because I didn't make the bet myself yet. The reality is I'm going to get involved in this game probably unless the number skyrockets because the Sixers have nobody and the Bucks are in a bit of a desperate situation. Like they can't really afford to. I mean, they're 4-6 in the season, right? So if they can beat one of their main rivals in the process, I don't see a situation where they could possibly be more motivated than this one. So everything points to the Bucks, which is kind of why I don't have any action on this game because I was like, why does it seem so easy? Like, yeah,
exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, this, like I feel like I'm being like someone's setting a trap for me or something. So I just need to go back and study, do a little bit more research. But I'm most likely gonna hop on Milwaukee and Jordan's look for the under. I love it. I absolutely love Jordan's look for the under.
Yeah, I think that. The other part that I didn't mention before we move on to this next game is that Philly already plays at the slowest pace in the NBA, and pretty much their only chance, and it's like usually you'd say they're missing all their guys, only got to speed it up. But like you said, they don't have Ben Simmons. They really don't, and now they're missing Isaiah Joe too. He's been a pretty good guard coming off the bench for them. Like their lack of guys being able to push the pace and get easy buckets essentially too tonight is going to play in this game and I think play towards the under. I think their only chance is to still play slow. I don't think Doc Rivers is changing how he plays regardless of who he has in there. He's kind of a system coach, and I think he's going to look at this Bucks team as we can't play up and pace with them because we'll just get smoked, right? There's absolutely zero chance that if they play towards the Bucks pace, they win this game. I don't think that's even close to the realm of possibility in tonight's game. The way they can win or cover this game is if they force the Bucks to defend on the other end, which if that's the case, the unders just makes it even better here. So yeah, I only play of the day for me right now. That's official at least for now. But I like it a lot. I've been burned on a couple unders the last 2 days, but I don't see where we're getting 120 points from one of these teams tonight. Do you? I just don't think it's possible.
I don't think so either. I agree with you, everything you just said, especially your last point where you said that essentially who's going to make them play faster? You can't just assume that that's what's going to happen because that is the usual narrative. You assume that could happen, but then you make your decision based on the roster. And based on Philly's roster, they don't have anybody that can push the pace on their roster. I'm sorry. Would you think Steph Curry's going to is going to turn into a point guard all of a sudden? It's not who he is. He's a spot-up shooter. They don't have anyone that's going to push the pace, so I might actually tell Jordan on that under as well. Jordan, you want to lead us into the next one?
Yeah, this next one also kind of seeming a little too easy for me, but I almost don't want to overthink this matchup too much. You have the Hawks coming off pretty much getting blasted last night. Similar kind of opponent and a very talented offensive and defensive team on the road on the second night of a back-to-back. After giving up 100 points through 3 quarters, what is stopping, or I should probably ask who is stopping the Utah Jazz from scoring 100 points through 3 quarters again on the Atlanta Hawks? Because this Hawks defense, I just don't know what happened. They looked great last year at times. They started off the first 1 or 2 games, they looked great, and it's just been a complete downhill spiral since then, like rapid decline. And I don't understand completely why it's happening, but it's certainly keeping me off the total of this game because I think usually I would be ready to bet the under here, assuming that Utah is able to, stifle this Atlanta Hawks defense. But Atlanta has got some mismatches for this team. You got some guys that are going to have trouble from Utah stopping some of these other guys from Atlanta. Namely, it's probably going to be Trae Young here. But the second night of a back-to-back thing kind of scaring me away from that. 8 points seems kind of right. Lean slightly towards the Jazz, I think, just simply because I am almost ready to put the Hawks in auto fade. I'm not quite ready to do that, but if they lose by double figures tonight, I think we have to start putting them in that category, especially on the road against more talented teams, because they don't have the defense. The defense is gone. Your offense alone is good, but it's not good enough to overcome you allowing 120 points per 100 possessions or whatever it's been the last 5 or 6 games. It's simple. I think it's a pass for me, slightly into Utah, but I'm not quite ready to trust Utah just yet. I think I need to just see it a little bit more, but all signs kind of pointed to them probably early and often tonight. Maybe the first half. Maybe I'd probably be more interested in Utah first half than full game if you maybe make a play on this one.
I'm all in on Utah. I think they are desperate for a win, desperate to right a ship. Now the spot isn't the greatest because it's the first game back home after a long road trip, which in the NBA is just historically not the best spot in the world. But they've lost 2 in a row, and they haven't looked good in those games. So they're not really in a position where they can say, oh, we'll just get the next one. Oh, they're not punting games. I think they make a statement. I think they take advantage of a team that played last night, that got their asses whooped, that really took a step up in competition, and they could not handle it. Like, yes, Steph Curry was amazing, but the reality is these guys were not prepared to play that game yesterday. They just weren't. Like Jordan said to start off the show, they gave up 100 points through 3 quarters. You're not beating anybody in today's NBA playing that type of defense. And I'll take it even a step further. They want to repeat what they did last year. They have a 0% chance of getting that done playing the type of defense that they're playing right now. So a lot of times we make the mistake of associating a team with what they did last year. A lot of people are kind of doing that with the Knicks and not seeing that the Knicks defense, for example, is atrocious. It's kind of ironic that the Knicks and the Jazz play each other in the first round last year because they have the exact same problem right now. They're both not doing the thing. Sorry, my phone was ringing there. They're both not doing the thing that made them successful. And if that continues, like I said earlier, I said it about the Knicks. If the Knicks are in the bottom half of the league in defense, they are not making the playoffs. I don't care what anybody tells me. The Hawks could make the playoffs in the bottom half of the league, but they'd have to be closer to 15 than 30, though. They can't be in like the low 20s. And the reason, and if you ask me what's the difference, I think the Hawks have the offense to make up for poor defense.
Yeah.
I don't think the Knicks have the offense to make up for poor defense. So I think the Hawks have more room for error than the Knicks do, but these 2 teams have the exact same problem. They're kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They're kind of believing their own headlines. They're kind of feeling themselves a little bit like, yeah, we were successful last year. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to be successful again this year. Nah, son. That's the Warriors. It just took a couple of roster moves for them to go from 5 straight finals to not even making the playoffs. It can change like that. Ask the Toronto Raptors. 3 years ago, they were lifting a banner. 2 years ago, they were battling, but still number 2, number 3 seed in the East, even though everyone counted them out because of Kawhi. Where are the Raptors right now and last year? Things change in the NBA like that. Snap of a finger. And the playoffs are not promised for either one of these teams. I'm being very long-winded. I think the Utah Jazz win and win by a margin in the situation where you're getting an opponent in a back-to-back situation coming to play at altitude after you've lost 2 straight games. I think Utah, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, I'm almost talking myself into a Utah first half.
I'm just going to say, you pretty much just talked me into it too.
Yeah, I just have to look at the stats. I'm not going to just blindly bet it. I'm going to have to go look at their first half metrics because I haven't really looked at that. But yeah, I'll let you take us away to the next game. Official play for me, Utah laying the points.
Yeah, last thing on this one, Atlanta is not even getting out of the first round, let alone the Eastern Conference Finals. They don't bring the defense. It's just a foregone conclusion. Defense is like 70-80% effort. We've said this on the show all the time. A minority of defense is skill. It's all about just coaching and effort, and essentially like this just disappeared. I have no idea what happened. And moving on, this game kind of seems kind of right? The Blazers and the Clippers, 3-point spread. You got the Clippers as 3 points favorites. A couple days ago, I think Portland was like 4th in the Western Conference. They've lost 2 in a row, I believe. Now you got the Clippers here at home laying 3 points. I feel like this spread is very close to right, but I also want to get your opinion on it because I'm interested because I was very much leaning towards the Clippers, but it also kind of seems like the public is leaning towards the Clippers a little bit too. But Portland is going to do what they're going to do, but I think bench-wise and like depth-wise, I still think the Clippers have the advantage here. And they're starting. They don't have Marcus Morris back, but they do have Serge Ibaka back. Like they're slowly getting their guys back, and I think that's going to play well to the side of the Clippers here. I actually have a pretty strong lean towards the -3 in this one. I'm a little surprised that the totals kind of started to shoot up a little bit. But it seems like I think it's starting to correct itself back down a little bit. That I was very surprised. I was almost ready to take a jab at the under here at 221. But I think for me, I'm gonna have to see how my first bet goes in the evening on this under. We get to this one by the time that one ends. We'll see if I want to jump on the Clippers here and see if anybody else is doing the same thing. But in my opinion, they're A, the better team. They're B, the better defense. They're C, they're at home. Like I say all the time, I'm not trying to overthink this too much. But you and I have went very long-winded on this show many, many times about how we're very much out on Portland. And they've been playing a little bit better than expected, especially with Damian Lillard struggling. And it seems to be he could be breaking out of that slump here. But I'm not ready to bet against the Clippers here with the way that they have their defense working and this game being at home. I could see Portland giving up a ton of points here, even to a Clippers team, obviously, that's not yet at full strength, that's missing their two best forwards right now. I still think they got the ability to put up a lot of points against this Portland team. So strong lean to the Clippers. Haven't gotten there. That would be my only other play. I would probably jump on this slate other than that under in Milwaukee and Philly.
All right, so I'm going to be a little bit quicker because I hate both of these teams from a perspective. I don't hate them as a fan. I don't hate any team really. But I don't understand. Let me say this in a different way. I don't see the value. Like I don't know where the value is because my initial instinct was Portland plus the points, which immediately means I'm really not that interested in this. Then I did a little bit more research and I started kind of swaying to your side where it's just kind of like, okay, but the Clippers can do enough to beat this team based on a couple of different things. First of all, the Clippers actually play defense. So as good of an offensive team as Portland is, they've already shown that they can go into shooting funks. That is like kind of always around the corner with them. Their offense is okay, but it's not great. They're 9th in the league in offensive efficiency, which is much better than they were doing at the beginning of the season. And they're actually 13th in defensive efficiency, which is pretty surprising. My lean in this game would kind of be towards the under.
Yeah.
I don't really see any value in the sides. Anything to add to this? And again, I'm just being very transparent. I don't bet on the Portland Trailblazers very often because they're the definition of. They're the definition of those teams in the NFL that are not good enough to compete for a Super Bowl, but they're not good enough to get the first pick in the draft, so they kind of just stay in this weird middle ground where they never get better. They're always like 8-7.
Oh God! It seems like you're talking about the Indiana Pacers for a second in basketball, but you said football. But yeah, I understand exactly what you're talking about.
So the reason I said football because it's an NBA show, so I apologize to those of you that don't watch football, is because there's fewer games, so it's just easier for me to spot in my mind the teams that go 8-7, like not 8. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're just one game above 500. But you're not good enough to really do anything. So the Pacers are the perfect example of that. The Pacers are always in this weird, like, they're almost like treading water every season. They're not advancing, they're not retreating, but they're just not going anywhere. So I feel like the Portland Trailblazers are the definition of that in the NBA since they were the Jailblazers once upon a time 20-something years ago. They haven't been able to take that next step. And people are going to be like, well, they made it to the Western Conference Final. Yeah, and got blown out. They made it to the Western Conference Final and got blown out by a Golden State Warriors team that didn't even have KD. They got swept 4 games. Boom, done. So that you finally get there, and you couldn't even show up. And I know Damian Lillard had a rib injury in that series and all that. But the point is, it just never seems to go their way. And for that reason, I don't invest money on them. So I just kind of wanted to say that so people stop, because a lot of people come at me like, oh, why do you hate Portland? Because every time I think they're good, they cost me money.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I fade them, they all of a sudden start winning. So I stay away from them.
You can't trust them. Yeah. Also, yeah, LA quietly, very quietly, real quick before we get to our picks, tied for second in the league in defensive rating. That's going to play tonight. You're right. I think the team that plays more defense is going to win this game simply because their offenses seem to be pretty evenly matched, right? So it comes down to who's going to play more defense. I think the Clippers at home play a lot more defense than the Blazers do, even though, like you said, Blazers can't be disrespected, but I think part of that maybe just a little early season luck. I think that one of those things that we talk about on this show almost daily is regression back to the mean. I would bet a lot of money in my sportsbook accounts right now, a high percentage of my current bankroll, that the Portland Trail Blazers will not finish the year in the top 10 of the NBA in defense efficiency. Probably not even in the top half. Maybe around hanging around that average kind of area, but definitely not the top 10. I don't think that's staying, especially with some of the teams that are behind them in defensive rating right now that should probably be ahead of them. Like they're which there are several. So with that, I think we've had enough of this slate. Let's get to our picks. I will go first. Lone one for me today. Small slate, obviously, under 218.5. Milwaukee and Philly. Got the hook. Found it at one of my sports books. Couldn't resist. Looks like most of the market's at 218, but this seems at least 3 to 5 points too high with the personnel issues that both of these two teams are dealing with right now. Slight lean to Clippers. I'd say more than a slight lean, but not quite a heavy lean on the Clippers. We'll see how that works out, but I just feel like Portland getting a little bit too much respect here. What do you got for us today, Junior?
Yeah, I just got one play, -7.5. I hate this line. 7.5 is a ton of points. I don't usually get involved in these type of spreads that are like 3 possessions, but the truth of the matter is Utah is about to smack these boys around. And I probably tell you, Jordan, with this under 218.5, love the play. But that's it for us for today. Thank you for joining us. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, and visit bookmakerreview.com. You'll find my articles, Jordan's articles, all of our expert picks, and sharp analysis. See you guys tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you for joining us.